I only meant to bring home a glowing egg from the bottom of the ocean. But just a few hours later, it started to crack open, and what crawled out in front of me was a baby Godzilla. At first, it was small enough to feel like a pet, but I quickly realized I had just brought home something that could become the most powerful monster in the ocean. A research submersible discovers the blue energy egg, half buried beneath the seabed. The robotic arm carefully lifts the blue energy egg out of the sediment. The blue energy egg rests in a padded containment cradle as water droplets slide off its shell. The submersible surfaces as scientists and lab security team haul the sealed blue energy egg case aboard. I opens the containment case and reveals the blue energy egg under bright lab lights. Scientists slide the blue energy egg beneath a scanning ring while energy patterns race under the shell. The blue energy egg emits a deep blue pulse that briefly illuminates the entire room. A thin crack appears across the glowing shell as tiny sparks of blue energy escape. Blue energy egg rocks from side to side, knocking lightly against the tray walls. Light pours out through the cracks, painting the room in pulsing blue. The blue energy egg bursts open in a spray of glowing fragments. Godzilla lifts its head from the shattered shell and blinks for the first time. I gently lifts the tiny Godzilla into black-gloved hands. Godzilla tilts its head and studies the room with wide, curious eyes. A red laser dot moves across the floor and Godzilla stares at it intensely. Godzilla hops clumsily after the laser dot and lands on it with both tiny claws. I offers a tiny fish with feeding tongs and Godzilla snaps it up eagerly. Godzilla chews a shrimp, then looks around for more. Godzilla ignores the fish and bites into a glowing stone, fascinated by the energy inside. Godzilla curls up asleep in the water as faint blue light pulses from its little back spines. Godzilla wakes, stretches, and sends a faint blue ripple through the water. Godzilla stares at the dangling cable instead of the food bowl. Godzilla touches the cable with one claw, and the blue glow in its spines brightens instantly. The overhead lights flicker on and off as Godzilla absorbs energy from the cable. Godzilla leans toward the lamp, and the bulb fades as its dorsal spines glow brighter. The room goes completely dark, except for the blue glow radiating from Godzilla. Scientists rush to the window and point in shock at Godzilla glowing inside the dark room. Close-up of Godzilla, tiny dorsal spines glowing with a steady blue pulse for the first time. Godzilla crawls onto a console and taps the controls with childlike curiosity. One by one, the monitors die as the glow in Godzilla body increases. Scientists place a battery near Godzilla and it leans close, absorbing the stored charge without touching it. Blue sparks dance across the water surface when Godzilla steps back into the tank. The entire tank glows from within as Godzilla sleeps deeper than before. Scientists view an X-ray showing branching energy channels running through Godzilla body. Godzilla already measures far larger than the previous day's record. Godzilla's shoulders press against the tank walls as it tries to turn. Around, security shutters slam down as containment protocols activate around Godzilla in the nursery wing. Godzilla walks down the corridor, lighting the walls with its own energy. The reflection of the glowing Godzilla fills the glass while the scientists remain frozen behind it. I places a gloved hand on the glass as the scientists realize Godzilla is a living bioreactor. Scientists wheel in a larger containment rig and formally take custody of Godzilla. I's gloved hands hesitate as scientists carry Godzilla away behind closing glass doors. Scientists attach glowing energy sensors along Godzilla dorsal spines and armored chest. Thick power cables are lowered toward the restrained Godzilla. A measured stream of electricity flows into Godzilla, and it absorbs the energy calmly. Godzilla closes its eyes and sits still while its spines pulse brighter in rhythm with the machines. Close-up of the dorsal fins glowing brighter than anything seen before in the San lab. Military engineers roll in a humming mini-reactor on a reinforced platform. Scientists watch the energy graphs surge upward, far beyond the expected safe line. Godzilla remains seated and compliant, while the scientists and military engineers prepare a stronger test. Scientists add larger monitoring plates along Godzilla's neck, back, and arms. Godzilla opens its eyes and the glow remains even after the power is cut for a moment. The team increases the voltage and Godzilla stiffens as the energy rushes in too fast. Godzilla finally growls at the scientists when the current spikes beyond tolerance. Close-up of Godzilla claws scraping long grooves into the steel restraints platform. Warning sirens flash for a moment when the containment field dips under the rising power. Load. Lead scientists order the experiment to continue despite visible instability in the chamber. The mini-reactor is lowered directly toward Godzilla chest level for a maximum transfer test. A violent blue pulse travels through the entire room and shakes every bolt in the chamber. Godzilla looks up in silence with blazing eyes, no longer appearing obedient at all. Blast doors lock shut around Godzilla as the final overload test begins. Every power line activates at once, and energy pours into Godzilla from all sides. Godzilla dorsal fins blaze white-blue, brighter than the lab lights themselves. Godzilla throws its head back and roars while the restraints strain to hold. The reinforced floor begins to fracture under the rising energy pressure. The metal chains pull tight, begin to deform as Godzilla surges upward. Its eyes become solid blue-white discs as the energy overwhelms its body. Blue light builds in Godzilla, throat and chest like a reactor ready to rupture. A compact blast of energy erupts from Godzilla's mouth and slams into the far wall. The blast tears through reinforced walls and shatters the observation windows. The shockwave hurls scientists across the room as papers and tablets fly. Lab security team runs through flashing red light as the facility enters collapse mode. The mini-reactor buckles, sparks violently, and begins to melt down. Sections of the ceiling cave in around the platform while Godzilla powers through the debris. Godzilla tears the final restraints apart and rises through sparks and dust. Godzilla climbs out of the combination. Destroyed facility? Now the size of a building. Godzilla towering shadow falls over nearby buildings for the first time. Helicopters from the early city evacuation convoys orbit the newly grown Godzilla while keeping their distance. Godzilla roars toward the sky as blue light races across its dorsal fins. Burning fragments and glowing blue debris rain down around the standing Godzilla. Military engineers decide not to destroy Godzilla and instead plan to harvest its power. Giant cranes and cables prepare a massive restraint harness designed for Godzilla dorsal spines. A weakened Godzilla kneels as sedative gas and restraint cables surround it. Military engineers' mechanical arms lock onto Godzilla dorsal fins and begin drawing test amounts of energy. The newly built containment city glows in the distance, like a machine built around a monster. Godzilla is lowered into the chamber by cranes and locking towers. Thick extraction cables connect directly to multiple dorsal fins and chest harness ports on Godzilla. As Godzilla energy begins flowing, the entire city lights up at once. Rows of turbines spin faster as Godzilla's stolen energy floods the grid. Godzilla lowers its head in visible pain while the city above shines brighter. Ai stands behind thick glass, watching the exhausted Godzilla trapped below. Military engineers watch the city's energy storage banks max out for the first time. Godzilla sinks to one knee as the extraction continues without pause. A strand of blue, luminous saliva falls as Godzilla breathes harder from exhaustion. Military engineers push the extraction level higher despite Godzilla's failing condition. Blue current is visibly ripped from the dorsal fins into the city's power conduits. Sections of Godzilla scales lose their rich color and appear dull after continuous draining. The city burns brighter than ever, fueled entirely by the captive Godzilla below. Godzilla closes its eyes and endures the draining in complete silence. Only the hum of the machines remains, while the exhausted Godzilla hangs motionless in the harness. A faint, blue heartbeat begins pulsing under Godzilla's chest scales, foreshadowing the energy core. Godzilla's eyes snap open with renewed light. Its claws flex slowly, scraping the floor as power returns to its body. Energy flowing out to the city becomes visibly unstable, as if being pulled backward. Godzilla suddenly reverses the flow and begins sucking power back from the entire in the system. High voltage cables snap loose and whip wildly through the air. Entire blocks of light collapse inward toward the central chamber as Godzilla reclaims the stolen energy. The spine extraction rig explodes in a ring of blue fire and metal. Containment drones lose power and drop from the sky, one after another. A shockwave from Godzilla blasts the armored doors outward. Godzilla rises to full height, charged with more energy than before. A giant circular shockwave races outward and shatters windows across the city. Military engineers run for armored trucks while sparks rain around them. Every tower overloads at once, glowing blue before detonating dark. The entire city loses power in a cascading blackout as fires begin to spread. Godzilla smashes through the armored wall and steps into the open world again. The Godzilla roars into the storm while blue energy streams off its body. Lightning strikes nearby, and Godzilla absorbs the electrical discharge through its spines. The last restraint clamp snaps and falls away into the mud. Godzilla walks away from the prison. City completely free. Radiating unstable light. Godzilla places one clawed hand on the substation and drains every transformer in seconds.